What's up, guys? This is day three and four of tracking Davos. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We're going to be dishing a ton of videos out. I mean, we're on video 3 for today to this video 4. And we got one more to do, Stellar Deep Dive. So hit the notification bell, get updated right when we release this stuff. So first off, I wanted to cover a couple things of news that came out kind of between the videos I was doing that are big. China launches smart contract functionality on digital yuan through e-commerce app Meituan. Through the smart contract, users can win part of a daily prize of $1,300 for using the digital yuan. They have to do all these incentives to kind of coerce people to use the digital CBDCs. China has enabled smart contract functionality for its CBDC, the digital yuan, through the e-commerce app Meituan, one of China's largest food delivery and lifestyle apps. China has been at the forefront of CBDC development among major countries as it started to test the digital currency as early as 2020. The currency has been used in retail transactions and to buy securities, but smart contract functionality on a mass retail scale has yet to be tested. Now they're testing it. So the smart contracts used by Meituan allow a daily prize of 8,888 renminbi to be divided up, according to local crypto media outlet 8BTC and other mainstream internet media outlets in China. When a user places an order with an app and pays for it with digital yuan, the smart contract is triggered and looks for certain keywords in the list of the goods purchased and the merchant name. If a user happens to have some of those keywords, which change daily, the smart contract will allocate a portion of the digital yuan to his or her digital yuan wallet. At the end of 2022, digital yuan accounted for 0.13% of the total circulation of Chinese renminbi yuan. They said this earlier in January and said in September that it was working to increase smart contract functionality and later rolled out a smart contract-based function that prevents payees from wrongfully taking prepaid funds. There we go. Now we have this. So at Davos, Dutch central bank chief takes aim at jurisdictions that attract bad crypto actors. Klaas Knot called the appealing localities with law restrictions sunny places for shady people. He was part of the only main stage panel focused explicitly on crypto at this year's World Economic Forum. If we go down here, 2 European regulators, an Arab lawmaker, and a lone crypto CEO, I think that's Brad Garlinghouse, sat down with the journalists in a snowy ski town on Thursday, and pretty quickly the room was sweltering. The four made up the only main stage panel focused explicitly on crypto at this year's World Economic Forum, which is notably less prominent than at last year's programming pre-FTX collapse. Although the speakers agreed on the need to supervise this space on a global scale, they didn't hold back when addressing the recent market mayhem and company collapses that have sent both the industry and regulators on a desperate mission to rebrand and regroup. The panel kicked off, and the UAE Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence and the Digital Economy said his jurisdiction innovation-friendly regulatory approach was far from a light touch and ensured no crypto companies, including Ripple, whose CEO Brad Garlinghouse sat next to him, currently have licenses from the UAE watchdog agency, the Virtual Asset Regulation Authority. The minister faced tough questions from Stacey Marie on why Dubai tends to come up as the favored destination for disgraced crypto founders seeking refuge or resurrection. Bad actors seek out jurisdictions such as Singapore, London, or Dubai because people give these places a certain amount of credibility. Addressing reports that collapse crypto enterprise terror founders Do Kwon had come to Dubai as authorities in South Korea launched a global search to locate him. I actually read an article that he was in Dubai, and I went out and looked for him. The guy wasn't there. The president of the Dutch Central Bank and head of the Financial Stability Board, an international group, took aim at jurisdictions that track crypto types for having lax oversight, a subject that has come to the forefront as the abrupt collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's Bahama-based FTX revealed poor management and misappropriation of company funds. Many of these crypto assets are offered from places that I would call sunny places for shady people. You will see them everywhere. You'll see them in Bahamas. You'll see them in New York, London. And what we need to do as governments is work together with the industry as well to ensure that if someone does something wrong, he can't move from one place to another. One of the things is that the benefits of the technology are beyond doubt. I mean, nobody's questioning the use of this technology, she said. So there we go. I mean, that's the stamp of approval right there. So as the lone crypto representative on the panel, Garlinghouse did his best to defend the industry's integrity after the multi-trillion-dollar market wipeout of last year. He said, as time goes by, I think we'll spend less time talking about Mt. Gox and Silk Road and more time talking about the real enterprise-scaled use cases where it's not an experiment. He said, global rules. Both Garlinghouse and the European Commissioner for Financial Services of the EU said that Financial Stability and Capital Markets Union emphasized the need for regulators to focus more on consumer protection measures as thousands of global retail investors took the hardest hit from the crypto collapse of 2022. Lots of people have suffered for what has happened now, so the consequences may not be immediate for financial stability, for individual stability, for both financial and mental health. This can be very dangerous. So they said that the bedrock of crypto regulation needs to be global, and said that if someone else comes in and does the exact same thing in another jurisdiction, talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, we'll all have failed as governments. This is a lesson that we need to take today and make sure it doesn't get repeated tomorrow. Unfortunately, we can't wait for the next catastrophe, and we're already too late. There we go. Then we got something from Stellar right here. So it is the future. We're pioneering the future of delivering aid. This is Danielle Dixon from Stellar, CEO and Executive Director at Davos, explaining how Stellar Aid assists put the individuals in control of their own assets. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Pioneering the future of aid, and that's what's so exciting about it. It is just going to be one more rail for aid organizations to leverage. It includes lots of players in it, but most importantly, it starts with the ability to do bulk uploading of transactions and immediately get them sent to individuals' wallets all over the world. And so you can do thousands of transactions at once. And so this is the tool that was developed for these aid organizations in conjunction with using this network. So it goes very quickly. The aid can be uploaded in seconds and then to a digital wallet. And the digital wallet can be a wallet anywhere in the world. We're happy to be using Vibrant right now in the Ukraine with the UNHCR. And then you have the USDC token, which is the value that we're using in this particular project, but you could use any stablecoin anywhere in the world. And then we have MoneyGram on the ground so that you can actually have the on and off ramp so that you can, what we're seeing right now in the project is that individuals, those internally displaced persons in Ukraine, are able to download the wallet and receive their aid in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's a pretty remarkable thing. That's registering, that's doing everything they need to do in that time period and then cashing out. So it really is the ability to do this whole pipe in such a short period of time, but it puts the individual in control of their own assets. They can hold their assets if they choose to. They can immediately cash out. They can put it into their bank account. It puts them in a powerful position. And we're targeting, the UNHCR is targeting some of the most individuals in the most challenged situations. So it's giving them an opportunity to feel empowered in a situation where they don't have any control over what's happening.
There we go. Danielle Dixon from Stellar. So then we had this. Crypto markets still appear to be operating within a good economic news equals bad news for asset prices, landscape, and the current RSI level shows why. So Bitcoin's relative strength readings are in a rare territory. Let's see what they got to say. Unusual readings. So where we're at now is comparative to, January 7th, 2021. That's when Bitcoin went up crazy. Let's see. So a bunch of where's the chart here? So we're gonna skip that. But another huge thing that happened is in the realms of regulation was Nexo out of nowhere reaches landmark resolution with the U.S. regulators. This was today. So Nexo has reached a final landmark resolution with the U.S. SEC, the North American Securities Administrators Association, consisting of all 50 U.S. states and 3 territories, the Attorney General of New York, the Texas Department of Banking, the Washington Consumer Services Division, and the Alaska Division of Banking and Securities. Important characteristics of the settlement with U.S. federal regulators include the settlements are on a no admit, no deny basis. The sole allegation has been that Nexo's earn interest product was an unregistered security offering. This closes all multi-year long inquiries into Nexo, looking at various aspects of the business following the company's voluntary decision to stop offering its EIP in the U.S., Nexo's proactive exit from the U.S. market in an orderly fashion, and an agreement to pay a monetary penalty payable over a 12-month period. The U.S. federal regulators do not contend that Nexo engaged in any fraud or misleading business practices or that any Nexo customers have been harmed or misled about Nexo's financial health. Very interesting. This is what he said. We are content with this unified resolution, which unequivocally puts an end to all the speculations around Nexo's relations to the U.S. We can now focus on what we do best, build seamless financial solutions solutions for our worldwide audience. We thank the commissioners involved for their time, effort, and dedication in doing what they believe is in their constituents' best interests and in line with the American values of transparency, financial freedom, and adherence to the highest professional and legal standards that we have built this great nation in which Nexo deeply relates to. We are grateful for its legal advisors for facilitating a most constructive dialogue with the U.S. federal and state regulators, as well as the New York Attorney General's office, which helped us secure this most favorable of outcomes. So it is Nexo's belief that the company has been recognized for what it truly is, a pioneer like Uber and Airbnb, providing disruptive solutions in a fast-paced environment. As innovators do not quite fit into existing provisions, constructive dialogue for the enhancement of the prevailing regulatory frameworks is of paramount importance. We are confident that a clearer regulatory landscape will emerge soon, and companies like Nexo will be able to offer value creating products in the U.S. in a compliant manner, and the U.S. will further solidify its position as the world's engine of innovation. Wow. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Nexo cooperated fully with the U.S. government's inquiry since day one. These resolutions are the pinnacle of almost 2 years of work and clearly show that Nexo is not a problem, but part of the solution. It is also an extension of Nexo's philosophy of building a robust and sustainable business model, which has stood the test of time, and it's part of its devotion and unwavering commitment to uphold the highest standards in terms of complying with its regulatory, KYC, AML, CTF obligations, protecting clients and investors, and ensuring financial stability and growth of its operations and the industry at whole. So there we go. I mean, it's looking like Nexo is going to be that company that ends up being the crypto lender for the retail. I mean, Nexo's working with like Fidelity and other big corporations. So that is some good news as far as a settlement for them, as well as they're saying we're going to see some regulatory clarity soon. So that's all good. Now let's dive into tracking World Economic Forum. And this one is going to be furthermore about carbon neutral, the green transition, digital revolution, talking about carbon credits, the climate, digital solutions for decarbonization. We're going to go through all this. And then, so let's dive into it. All right, starting off, we got how Japan is accelerating efforts towards a carbon neutral society. So let's go down here. Japan is among a group of 136 countries that have pledged climate commitments to reach net zero by 2050. Alongside the Japanese government's own climate policy measures, business efforts are also underway to reduce emissions. Here's how stakeholders from different sectors are accelerating and scaling up on action on climate change. Let's go down here. So this is what we got. Reducing GHG, so greenhouse gases emissions from the supply chain. SoftBank has declared that it will switch to virtually 100% renewable energy use for its business activities and electricity consumption by 2030, while at the same time achieving carbon neutrality through energy-saving initiatives that utilize cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. In addition, the company announced that its goal of achieving net zero supply chain emissions by 2050, including GHG emissions from business partners and other sources. Annual GHG submissions, so we're not going to dive into that, but they also updated their national plan for the global warming countermeasures for the first time in 5 years, and concrete efforts are now underway to achieve both industrial structural reform and economic growth. Let's see that. So it's actually in Japanese, so I can't really get any info from this. So we are going to skip this and move on. But a digital revolution for Japan and the world. So Japan seems to be like the role model as far as the World Economic Forum. They're putting them on a pedestal as far as we should follow how Japan is moving. So achieving a digital revolution requires more than just upgrading technology. Increasingly, we're finding it requires a legal revolution too. Bus legislation is guided by 5 digital principles. Every law and regulation has to tick 5 boxes before being adopted. Centralized coordination of the digital legal revolution is crucial with the Digital Legislation Bureau to ensure new laws conform to digital goals. 2 years ago, Japan declared a digital revolution. Despite a well-earned reputation for high-tech hardware, think robots, automobiles, and high-speed trains, our country had fallen behind in the digital era. Government in particular was stuck in the analog dark ages, with clerks shuffling through endless paper forms, many marked with the red ink of traditional Hanko stamps. Inconvenience for citizens wasn't the only consequence. This backwardness meant lost opportunities in areas like education and healthcare, as public systems weren't equipped for remote learning and diagnostics. It stifled innovation too, because laws and regulations couldn't accommodate technological change, and it left Japan's economy less prepared for shocks like the C-19 pandemic. Emergency financial aid programs, for example, had to be organized manually and took months to deliver as a result. That was basically globally that was the case. This society-wide digital deficit is what the government was determined to change. Digital revolution needs a legal revolution. So since the announcement of our digital transformation initiative in September 2020, we made great strides. A cabinet-level digital agency, which I oversee as minister, started operating last year and coordinates the effort across government departments in the private sector. The agency's budget for this fiscal year is 472 billion yen. Their priorities include promoting digital IDs, developing new digital public infrastructure, and accelerating research into next-gen semiconductors and post-5G telecom networks. But achieving a digital revolution requires more than just upgrading technology. Increasingly, we're finding that it requires a legal revolution too. So let's go down here. And this is exactly what the US needs to do as far as the Howey test. How they're talking about hundreds or, decade-long regulation does not fit with this new digital age, and they need to change the Howey test for declaring what's a security, what's not. The problem is that behind every out-of-date administrative process is an out-of-date rule. A law that says, for instance, that forms need to be submitted in person or checked manually by an official. Such rules mean that even if more up-to-date digital solutions exist, they can't be implemented. The result is inefficiency and waste. So then they go into talking about factory inspections, but then they're talking about modern smart factories. Then let's go down here. So 5 digital principles. So here are the 5 digital principles. Number 1, digital execution automation. Procedures should be digitally executable with no need for written forms or in-person filings. 2, agile governance. Regulations should stipulate end results, the risks or harms to be prevented, and be flexible with regard to processes. Then public-private partnership. Governments should make use of web services and other technologies developed by private companies. Interoperability. Systems should be interoperable so that national and local governments, quasi-public entities in the private sector can share data smoothly. Then number 5, infrastructure sharing. The public and private sectors should share a common basic digital infrastructure for things like digital IDs and data registries. There we go. So they're trying to say this is how the world should move, and that public-private partnership, interoperability, infrastructure sharing, all of this is where we're headed to. And then it talks about centralized coordination of the digital legal revolution is crucial. In Denmark, a country that has been ahead of the curve on the issue, an agency for digitization examines all new legislation to make sure it's digital ready. Japan already has an agency. I believe I was in Denmark this summer. I went to Amsterdam, and I remember being at the airport, and there was just this sound that it was like people walking through it, and I think it was their ID or C-19 card. And I saw it firsthand. Denmark is digital ready. And then if we go down here, the Bureau has already started work reviewing bills for the current session of the Diet, Japan's national legislature. Some in Japan have expressed skepticism about the digital transformation program. Can the government really change so many laws? Does it have the political will? I would answer yes, because there's no other choice. Citizens increasingly expect to be able to live and work online, and that expectation has only intensified with C-19. Any government that doesn't deliver will pay the price. There we go. Then Davos 2023, what you need to know about climate, nature, and energy. All right, this is what we got. So the energy transition, climate crisis, food security are inextricably linked. A message reinforced at Davos 2023. The World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos gathered global leaders to accelerate progress towards reaching net zero nature-positive targets. Here's what you need to know about climate, nature, and energy today in the sessions at Davos that were dedicated to solving the issues. The climate crisis was high on the agenda at Davos 2023. The World Economic Forum, more than 45 partners launched the Giving to Amplify Earth Action at Davos. The GAEA is a global initiative to fund and grow new and existing public, private, and philanthropic partnerships, the PPPs, to help unlock the $3 trillion of financing needed each year to reach net zero, reverse nature loss, and restore biodiversity by 2050. Current funding for the energy transition is slow and inadequate, and a new approach is needed to get capital flowing. We are at a tipping point in our efforts to put the planet back on track to meet our climate ambitions. To reach the speed and scale required to heal the Earth's systems, we need to unlock not only private capital and government funds, but also the philanthropy sector as a truly catalytic force to achieve the necessary acceleration, said Klaus Schwab. At the meeting, they discussed in detail the inextricable links between the climate crisis, nature's collapse, and the energy transition and a global food security. They explored how new approaches and partnerships can lead to new solutions, such as leveraging philanthropy in new ways, driving climate adaptation, and spurring more ambitious, comprehensive, and sustainable infrastructure investment plans that can stabilize the natural world while helping the world meet the 2030 emissions reduction targets. Here's what we need to know about what top leaders at the annual meeting discuss in order to tackle the climate crisis and nature, with highlights of articles to read and watch. So let's hear it.
That means the European and the United States alone are putting forward almost €1 trillion to accelerate the clean energy economy. This has the potential to massively boost the path to climate neutrality. But it is no secret that certain elements of the design of the Inflation Reduction Act raised a number of concerns in terms of some of the targeted incentives for companies. So this is why we have been working with our United States friends to find solutions, for example, so that EU companies and EU-made electric cars can also benefit from the Inflation Reduction Act. Aim should be to avoid disruptions in transatlantic trade and investment. We should ensure that our respective incentive programs are fair and mutually reinforcing. And we should also set out how we can jointly benefit from this massive investment, for example, by creating economies of scale across the Atlantic or setting common standards.
There we go. All right, now let's dive in to the next thing. We have 30 digital solutions to power decarbonization for industries at scale. Let's see what this is about. We have the case for digital is clear. Select digital solutions can reduce global emissions by up to 20% in hard-to-abate sectors. Emissions in hard-to-abate sectors are largely driven by poor efficiency, waste, and byproduct, and indirect emissions across value chains. The 30-plus digital solutions outlined in the Digital Solutions Explorer enable companies to progress outcomes in 3 key areas. More than 34% of the world's largest companies have net zero commitments, but most will fall short unless they double the pace of emissions reduction by 2030. While countries and companies prepare for the great energy transition and other technological innovations to come fully to market, electric vehicles, sustainable aviation fuels, energy web, green and blue hydrogen, the World Economic Forum in collaboration with Accenture are showing how integrating digital solutions across hard-to-abate sectors, energy, materials, mobility, and buildings can reduce global emissions by up to 20%. Emissions in these sectors are largely driven by poor efficiency, waste, and byproduct, and indirect emissions across value chains. So then we go down here. The 30-plus digital solutions outlined in Digital Solutions Explorer enable companies to progress outcomes in efficiency, circularity, and Scope 3 emissions reduction. So let's see. All right, so if we go down here and we see improve efficiency, reduce Scope 3 emissions, enhance circularity, increase efficiency. So across hard-to-abate sectors, digital can enhance efficiency in a number of ways, including identifying, prioritizing updates of energy and resource inefficient assets and processes. They have Shell's real-time process optimizer using technology to mitigate methane leaks, similar to Microsoft's use of satellite and cloud technology. Then if we go down here, we can see the Internet of Things. We can see another key example. Building energy management systems can provide real-time information on how a building is consuming energy. Increasing efficiency relies on sensing technology, IoT, and decision-making technology, digital twin, to gather data on status quo operations and identify inefficiency in the system or areas where energy output can be optimized. Then they have cross-industry collaboration to enhance trust and communication needed for value chain circularity. Let's go down here. Here we go. So we have, for example, traceability technology follows the trail of materials along the supply chain, V-chain, right? By monitoring and tracking the chain of custody. A combination of markers such as barcodes, embedded identifiers, sensor technologies, when linked to blockchain, can enable tracking of materials from production plants through end of life to improve recycling outcomes. In addition, this information enables transparency and allows for third-party certifications that consumers and commercial buyers rely on. Circularity initiatives benefit from digital solutions such as connected data management systems protected by blockchain across the supply chain, and exemplified by Siemens Sigreen, a low-energy blockchain technology to track and share asset emissions data, material markers, barcodes, embedded identifiers, sensors to collect and share data, and product material passports to fully enable circularity via data sharing and transparency. Multiple functions within an organization, IT, procurement, sustainability, and research development teams will need to increase their digital fluency. There we go. So blockchain's involved with the energy transition, guys. We've been saying it. Then we go down here and you can see that they're saying that select digital solutions are already today supporting decarbonization across hard-to-abate sectors, as evidenced by the many examples shared above. However, select companies acting alone will not get global carbon emissions to a 1.5 degree scenario. The solutions to drive significant reductions in carbon emissions exist now, but quickly need to scale through collaborative action across value chains. The forum is facilitating cross-industry action pods to scale adoption of high-impact digital solutions and address key barriers to scale. There we go. Now let's dive into the next thing. How carbon credits stop poverty. All right. In agricultural land conversion. Climate change, poverty, and agricultural land conversion are intrinsically linked, and forest protection is vital to prevent biodiversity loss. Between 2001 and 2019, it's talking about the forests in Thailand. Let's go down here. Here we go. So the undertaking bridges cooperation from government entities to authorize land use for the REDD Plus project, private sectors to fund the project, and the community to spearhead the implementation. The initiative supports communities in validating and verifying carbon credit and earning income from selling carbon credit. In lieu of only buying the credit, private donors support funding for livelihood development activities and forest management, providing additional income and incubating local business initiatives. Then if we go down here, it says the lack of global solidarity towards the climate ambition affects not only humans' way of life and our future, but the whole biosphere. Conserving nature and creating more income for people who live in forests are seen as solutions in the opposite direction. With sound project planning and implementation, awareness from all stakeholders, and people-centric activity, carbon credit could be an effective tool to protect nature while developing the community's livelihood. Through this endeavor, biodiversity might prevail with us. There we go. Next one. We got 4 priorities for a clean energy transition in 2023. To reach our future net zero targets, we must start taking drastic steps to decarbonize in 2023. Both countries and companies must find common ground and agree on how we're going to accelerate our net zero economic transition. Leaders in business and government have key opportunities they must seize to drive the energy transition forward. All right, next up, we got reports indicate that the target of limiting global temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius is rapidly slipping off the table. We urgently need to step up the clean energy transition now and throughout the remainder of this decade. However, globally, more needs to be done. Let's go down. Okay. So here are 4 areas where the emphasis needs to be placed in 2023 to make a material impact. We got enhancing and reprioritizing the investment capacity of multilateral development banks. Multilateral development banks have contributed significantly to kickstarting the energy transition, but the transition will be capital intensive. They need to reach 3 trillion, tripling around from 0.8 to 1.2 trillion today for investment. While most of that will come from global private capital and domestic savings instruments like multi-sovereign guarantees, concessional financing, and other de-risking finance must come from the multilaterals. This will need to be applicable across geographies and across the value chain, including the mining of critical materials, equipment manufacturing, clean energy generation, transportation, and adoption. Reforms in the shareholding of the multilaterals, their risk tolerance, their capital allocation frameworks, their speed of disbursements, and a greater transparency and data on their investments are absolutely critical to enable the necessary finance mobilization. These are not entirely within the control of multilaterals themselves, but it is within the control of the shareholders. So let's go down. Double the number of countries announcing public policies to deliver existing commitments. Let's go down here. Agreement on all new fossil fuel infrastructure to be made fit for transition. So, such as being equipped to be retrofitted for carbon capture technology or built to accommodate other low carbon fuels like green hydrogen. Then a jumpstart to implementing corporate decarbonization. Mitigation action is and will continue to largely devolve to corporates, utility companies, chemical and cement companies, and automotive groups are currently taking the lead. Strong commitments were made last year, but they're not enough, and they are long term. Let's go down. You have In many parts of their businesses, there are several shovel-ready decarbonization opportunities, including adopting cleaner electricity, using data and digital technologies to achieve better efficiencies, and making forward investments in large-scale carbon credits. Business leaders need to step up in driving the implementation of their targets. Then let's go to here. So while there are so many challenges for us to collectively overcome, the year 2023 is also the one where political opportunities present themselves to turn these ideas into action. India's presidency of the G20 and the conclusion of the first global stocktake of the Paris Agreement at COP28 in the UAE are two of those key moments. Let's ensure they deliver the necessary change. Now we got some things on our roadmap here. So that summary of events 2023 that I'm making, we're going to put these on the list with a quote saying this is what they got their eyes on for the necessary kind of implementation. So let me write this down. All right, now let's go to the next thing. All right, then we got this: scaling solutions, the role of carbon markets, and accelerating the net zero transition. Natural disasters in 2022 caused over $1 billion in damage. Climate change is here, and we must accelerate our adoption of carbon markets if we're to keep our net zero targets alive. The world needs transformational change to fight climate change. It needs it now. The world is mobilizing the fight against climate change. It's talking about the Fit for 55 package, European Union's package, and the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. Also, despite geopolitical tensions, climate change topped the Bali G20 agenda, forged new dialogue between China and the U.S., and has sparked those new policy initiatives that I just mentioned. At COP27, we saw a landmark agreement on loss and damage funding, which put the crucial issue of climate accountability front and center, resulting in stakeholders around the world having to take a hard look at the environmental impacts of their activities and work out how to address them. Encouraging progress, but still some way to go. So then it goes into some data here. And it says, as investors put ESG considerations at the forefront of their decision-making, disclosure standards are tightening, so bolstering corporate accountability. Today's companies will, however, have to move faster to decarbonize and be more explicit about the progress they are making if they are to meet societal investor demands. For many, decarbonization will be a long journey, requiring time to make the wholesale changes required, including adopting new technologies, improving their environmental management capabilities, and fully measuring the range of emissions across our operations and supply chain. Carbon credits can offer a solution. Carbon credits offer a solution as companies move toward decarbonization. So if we go down here, on voluntary carbon markets, for example, corporates can purchase carbon credits generated by projects that avoid or remove GHG emissions to neutralize or compensate for their emissions. By creating a viable carbon market, carbon credits in turn help drive investment into carbon offset projects such as in forestry, renewable energy, and greenhouse gas capture activities. Then we go down and we see, but some obstacles have stood in the way of wider adoption, particularly in Asia. Since the introduction of voluntary carbon credits, a myriad of standards have emerged under various schemes, meaning credits can vary significantly in terms of their governance, scope, and eligibility and methodologies. That means buyers often have difficulty navigating different standards, finding price transparency, and defining high-quality carbon credits. For sellers, this limits access to finance and raises the cost of verification for small project developers. Such obstacles and a lack of trust in marketplaces may impede the flow of capital from those making carbon neutral or net zero commitments into the hands of those with the ability to reduce or remove carbon. Core Climate, a new carbon marketplace. To meet these challenges and connect capital with climate-related products and opportunities in Hong Kong, mainland China, and globally, HKEX was proud to launch Core Climate, an easy-access, one-stop voluntary international carbon marketplace that includes trading and settlement functions on October 28, 2022. Interesting. I did not hear about that, but that's going to be on our radar, and we're going to look into that. Carbon credits on the platform are transparent, coming from internationally certified carbon projects and are issued under international standards such as Verified Carbon Standard under Verra. Participants can purchase, sell, settle, store, and retire voluntary carbon credits on the platform. Then if we go down here, we can see our journey continues. Core Climate is the latest step we have taken in our role as a market operator to develop an ecosystem of sustainable and green investment products to help fund companies on their low carbon transitions. Additionally, as a regulator, we continue to advocate and set standards for ESG disclosure and governance where ESG practices and reporting are fully integrated into daily business operations. Finally, as a listed company ourselves, we look to take the lead by example. For example, through our commitment to the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, which involves making a net zero pledge and developing and implementing business plans as part of our strategy for a low carbon future, we believe that successfully addressing climate change will be dependent on what we do now, not tomorrow. As society looks to leaders to drive and define the speed of climate action, we are proud to serve as a change agent, innovator, and advocate. We are committed to progressing our markets and the communities they support. With our latest carbon initiative, we are confident that we are creating the channels needed to scale up the solutions we all need to accelerate the net zero transition. Please join us as we strive to create a prosperous future for us all. Boom, there it is. Now let's go into the next thing. And to wrap it up, why you should consider adding carbon credits to your climate action plan. It says, though there is no substitute for reducing emissions, carbon credits can be crucial in reaching net zero. Carbon credits can help offset organizations' residual emissions during their energy transition. Careful third-party evaluation of carbon credits is needed to ensure they are effective purchases. Carbon credits, which represent the avoidance, reduction, or removal of greenhouse gases in order to compensate for emissions made elsewhere, can play an important role in our collective journey to a more sustainable and nature-positive future. When made and used well, carbon credits can be a key part of our efforts to reach the shared global goal of net zero, when the amount of greenhouse gas emissions emitted into the atmosphere equal those removed from it. And then if we go down, carbon markets can help close their funding gap, allowing organizations to financially support innovative nature-based projects worldwide by purchasing carbon credits. Of course, we can't offset our way to net zero. On a global scale, our first step must be to greatly reduce GHG emissions. To avoid the worst impacts of climate change, we need to cut emissions in half by 2030 and to near zero by 2050. Then let's go down here. Are your carbon credits contributing to climate action? So basically down here it says we're at an all of the above moment for climate action. We need all strategies executed in parallel right now. They're urging for immediate action on all stops, right? So while you're working on reducing emissions, you can also purchase carbon credits to provide critical funding to scale climate solutions. Evaluating carbon credit criticisms. Today there are two main criticisms of carbon credits. Organizations will purchase carbon credits instead of reducing their emissions. And then 2, the climate benefits some projects claim are inflated or simply incorrect. And then it says challenges on the path to net zero. Taking bold climate action takes determination, resources, and innovation, but taking action can make organizations more successful and resilient. The voluntary carbon market faces a few key challenges, including buying high quality carbon credits, and understanding their level of quality is hard, and it shouldn't be. So you need one of those carbon credit tracking solutions, right? Well, let me pull up Zanj and let's just look at this verbiage. So side by side, right? This is what we got. So on the right side, we got Zanj will develop a carbon credit solution on the XRP ledger. A sustainably run securities exchange operating in partnerships with the UN announced today that will develop a carbon credit solution on the carbon neutral XRPL. They're working on focusing on African market infrastructure solutions for carbon markets and to contribute to the sustainable development goals. So basically, they're developing this for the issuance of tokenized carbon credits in accordance with the standards set by all these initiatives. Then you have down here that, all right, the task force on scaling voluntary carbon markets, just like right here, it says voluntary carbon markets and how purchasing high quality carbon credits means navigating the rapidly evolving voluntary carbon market, which can be very challenging. So this group here represents buyers and sellers of carbon credits, standard setters, the financial sector, market infrastructure providers, etc. And they are looking to scale an effective and efficient voluntary carbon market to help meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. Right there, you have some big names in here. And to make carbon credit purchases more trusted, companies should look for third-party ratings that bring transparency to the complex voluntary carbon market. While quality standards are still being improved, independent third-party reviews are an indispensable tool for increasing transparency around carbon credit quality. That's exactly what they built here. So Salesforce built a net zero marketplace, a climate action hub for everyone, in a site where organizations can purchase carbon credits offered by ecopreneurs. Then if we go down here, we need more high quality carbon credit projects, talking about the core carbon principles by the ICVCM. You have the TSVCM, but let's see if the ICVCM is in here. Probably the same thing. Let's go down. The time for climate action is now. Reaching the level of decarbonization that science tells us is needed and dependent on societal systemic changes that will take time. This means that while emissions reduction goals should be prioritized to reach them, organizations must also seek to affect change outside their own operations. Carbon credits are one tool to that end with a great deal of promise. Today, Salesforce has their tool there, and then our climate action plan serves as a guide that we hope is helpful to others as they chart their climate action journeys. We include ESG goals as part of our executive compensation programs, and they publish a yearly stakeholder impact report since 2011 and continue to advocate for decision-useful corporate climate disclosures. And in addition to our own net zero journey and transparent ESG reporting, we are also focused on enabling our partners, customers, and peers to get to net zero emissions as quickly as possible with our sustainability solutions. They talk about how carbon markets are complex, but inevitably some mistakes will be made along the way. And the worst thing to do is sit on the sidelines and wait. We're in this together, and we must work together to create a future we can be proud of starting now. All I see and hear from all these passages that we have just read and seen here have said, basically the theme is the time to act is now, and we need to pull out all stops. Like, we need to do everything all at once, because we're right at the point, a critical crossroads where it may become too late. So we've been tracking the climate scenarios and everything like that. So based off of how this year goes, it's going to be the year that decides the next decade. We're going to be on top of it. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Come join the Discord. The link will be in the bio, and I'll see you in the next video.